Thanks again to Greg Sheraton joining us from downtown Belleville to talk more about what's happening with Alfresco going forward. But joining us as we look to the fall season with a brand new show coming up on your TV, it is Richard Hughes, the president of the Hastings County Historical Society, and also the host of Out of the Vault on your TV. Joining him is Orland French, a writer and historian. Orland and Richard have been taking your TV producer JP Lemieux around all over the place, showing him the sites for a brand new project they have that you may have seen snippets of, 5-minute snippets throughout the summer. So Orland and Richard, how did this latest venture with historical plaques get started?
It started off with a brilliant idea to list all the historical plaques in Hastings County on a website. And when we did that, somebody also said another brilliant idea is to maybe put the plaques on videos, and we can take people around on videos around Hastings County. And then another brilliant person says, well, let's put them together and group them as road trips. That's where we are.
So HastingsHistoricalPlaques.ca is the website we've had up for quite some time, where you can view all the different historical plaques at your leisure with photos and more importance of the story. So you two have been hitting the road. Where have you been so far? Because there's 5 little areas you're trying to highlight.
Well, as Orland pointed out, we started off with the concept of doing just a few of these 5-minute videos to show on television, and actually we're so pleased with the outcome that it was suggested, well, let's put it together into road trips, 5 videos in each area. For instance, we did 5 in Natick, 5 in Marlborough, Tweed. We're going to do Bancroft, the rural parts of Belleville, and Quinte West, and we'll do the same in Tanzania. And with these 5-minute videos, we'll, let's say, make a 30-minute program for your TV.
So Road Trips in Hastings County is the extended version of this venture. What stories have really been impacting you when you revisit all these historical plaques? What are some of the stories that stick out right now?
A couple that come to mind for me. There's one that's not really part of the original heritage series of plaques, but it's a guy named Henry Gowan, who was a sailor in the British Navy. He was trapped in the ice for 2 winters in the Arctic as they looked for Henry. I forgot the name. So when he escaped, he came back to Britain and found a wife and brought her back to the Belleville area and farmed north of Belleville, the cheese factory there. And that's a long way from the Arctic. I don't think I want to go back there.
And Richard, for you?
Well, if I might just go back right to the beginning, there's one part like I had, and that is, the genesis of this whole program, because you recall through March and April and the early spring, we were all self-isolating at home. And many of us, as the good weather arrived in the spring, we thought, we'd love to get out, we'd love to get some fresh air. So this is how we brought together the plaque websites, and there's over 100 plaques on that. And with the thoughts of getting out into the fresh air, so you combine the 2 of them, get up into the countryside, driving in your car, which is consistent with the protocols of safety, and stopping at the rural areas. These are not in the group areas. Stopping in the rural areas and visiting the plaques, and at the same time learning about the towns and the villages where you are. So that was the beginning of it, and it evolved into the 5-minute videos, and then now into 30-minute.
So are you interviewing other people with physical distancing in mind, or is it just specifically on the plaque in the area that it takes you to?
No, we're in some of the plaques we're doing it just the 2 of us, and of course always with proper physical distancing. But in other areas we have the local guests to tell some of the local stories. Because what we're learning is, through these visits, we visited so many villages in the county. What we're learning, these villages, they have fascinating stories to tell. There's so many of them, as Orland related to Henry Gowan, Arctic explorer. And as I say, you mentioned, I could mention even in Tweed, they had an epidemic in Tweed, a smallpox epidemic back in the 1860s, and over 40 people died. And that's quite a story. And the outcomes, interestingly enough, is that that was the first time that the provincial health department thought we should have local boards of health. And that gave rise to the situation we have today with the local boards of health out of the smallpox epidemic.
Welcome to the Tweed. Today's story is not a very happy one, but it is profoundly important in the development of healthcare services in Ontario. In 1884, a local epidemic of smallpox erupted in Hungerford Township and the Tweed area. These outbreaks would happen anywhere and be caused by almost any transportation method. In this particular case, a small boy was assigned to a farm. He may have been one of the boys who came over from the home children emigration from England. At any rate, the people on the farm got ill, and some others started to fall in the area. And then a laborer from one farm moved to Stokel. People there got sick, and soon 16 people were dead, quite a number from one family, and a family of 4, both parents died, leaving 4 orphans. The local doctor soon realized he had an epidemic on his hands, so he called for help from the newly formed Ontario Board of Health. And they sent down some specialists who adopted a plan, which was vaccination, inoculation, separation, isolation, a lot of the programs that we're familiar with today. And fortunately, they were able to contain it. And although 45 people died and there were over 200 that contracted the disease, that was the end of it here. They learned from that. A lot of the methods they were using were adapted by the province for other areas, and overall they established more than 400 health clinics across the province based on the rules and regulations that they developed here in Tweed and Hungerford Township. Some of the lessons learned in 1884 are still valid today, as we've been learning during the outbreak of coronavirus in 2020. This plaque is available in front of the Tweed Heritage Museum on the main street of Tweed. I'll see you on the road.
Each of these itineraries, about 6 itineraries, and they have about 5 plaques in each village. And of course, the goal of it is for the person to travel to that area, be it Madoc, Marmot, Tweed, Bancroft, and as I say, visit the plaque, see the sites where these things took place, and then stay in the village, have lunch, and learn about that specific locality. So that's the overall package to try to get people through. While we're limited, we can't travel long distances now very well. While we're limited to that, let's learn more about Hastings County. There's hundreds of stories.
Speaking of lunch, this was a real hardship assignment because when it first started back in June, you couldn't get a coffee anywhere even. You get a coffee, you couldn't get a lunch. You had to take it with you or start it for the day while you're on the road. Everything was really shut down, but we were able to get to the monuments. Where
is the next story going to take you? Have you been plotting out where you're going to go next with these segments?
Richard's off to Bancroft on
That's right. We're off to Bancroft on Friday, and we're going to stop at Delow, and that is an amazing story in itself. Delow, of course, found gold, they found silver, they had all kinds of minerals there, and it's quite a story. Then we go off to Bancroft, and of course that was a great lumbering center and a very interesting history there in Bancroft. And it's also, in the concept of the road trip, a very pleasant place to spend a day.
Yeah, nice place to travel for sure. How long do these little segments take you guys to film, aside from the travel? Because Bangkok's a bit of a trek right now.
Go ahead, Dan.
The filming of the pieces actually takes, they turn out to be a full 5 minutes, but time you repeat them and go over them and polish them, it takes maybe 15, 20 minutes for each one.
All right.
One thing, if I might go back to your earlier question, as I say, we're discovering so much ourselves, and we're so interested and excited by what we're discovering. We hope that we can pass this on to the listeners, that if they do go out to these villages, the area around Madoc, for instance, even Marmara, they were mining areas. And it's an interesting thing that as you drive through the lower part of Hastings County, flat or hilly farmland, extremely. As you arrive in Madoc, you go down a long hill, and you go from the flat limestone of the south, you go into the Canadian Shield, almost within a kilometer. The whole geology changes. And very few people will realize the difference. Here you've got limestone and flat country. Once you pass into Madoc, you've got granite and hills and other boulders and such.
And once again, more on the plaque, specifically HastingsHistoricalPlaques.ca, but road trips in Hastings County on your TV, the place to be in the fall. Once again, a half-hour program. Orland and Richard, as we continue to reflect on the power of stories right now, and specifically Richard with the Hastings County Historical Society, what are some of the new stories that you've been considering for possible plaques in the future?
Well, actually, we do have some additional plaques. We have put up 13. 6 in Belleville and 7 in Hastings County. And we have 3 in the works for Quinte West. There's a lot of history in Quinte West, and we want to capture that in 3 historical plaques. And then we have another one at Elk College that's going to be installed. A botanist, John McCoon, who became Canada's national botanist, and was an amazing story. These plaques actually have been made. We're ready to go, but the pandemic says block the installation and the unveiling. But the plaque projects will continue, because we really believe that the more people can read about their community, it really has an effect on them.
And for viewers out there who feel that they perhaps have a good historical story for you and want to go through the plaque process, how does that work? Is there a committee that decides what story deserves a plaque?
Yes, we have, of course, the board of directors. We have a very active board. And they're always willing, always interested in receiving inputs from the public, ideas on anything of a historical nature. So we're wide open to that.
All right. Orland French, what's been happening with you and your stories as we continue to have a bit of extra time? Because you two have been quite busy, once again, making sure everybody understands their local history as well.
Our top plaques that we're talking about are only those in rural Hastings. We have about 135 on our website. And about 30 of those are from rural Hastings. The rest are in Belleville and Trenton. So there are a lot of plaques. Look around you in Trenton and in Belleville that you'll find. And we'll cover that some other time.
All right. Thanks for including that, Orland. We appreciate it. So going forward with plaques and local history, what's next for you two? What have you been researching lately?
Well, one thing I might add to what Orland just said, as I said, 2 years ago we installed 6 plaques in downtown Belleville, and there are others. And one thing that the public might enjoy is a walking trip down Front Street in Belleville and Pinnacle Street. You can walk the length of the street. It's there's lots to see there these days, and you can stop at these plaques and read them. It makes a very interesting promenade down Front Street and part of Pinnacle Street just to see the plaques that are there.
All right. So going forward, though, what's happening with other stories? Are you continuing to look for more road trips? How long are you going to be taping? We obviously don't know with the pandemic at the moment, but we've got a couple of shows, I guess, started.
I think I hold the record in this exercise for driving the furthest distance. A friend and I drove past Maynooth to Combermere, which is actually in Renfrew County, on top of a hill. There's supposed to be 2 plaques, and we couldn't find one. That hill would have been totally painted over by some vandal. So we drove way up there and got nice pictures, had a nice big lunch, but it was a long way. I think people should realize that Hastings County is the 2nd largest in Ontario. It's a very long, narrow county, all the way from from here up to Algonquin Park, and it's not very wide, and there's one road that runs the length of it, 562.
You mentioned looking to the future. One thought that has been done, of course, is to try to capture for North TV some of the plaques in the urban areas in the Quinte West, which tell stories that possibly people aren't aware of. And there are quite a few plaques that tell stories that maybe people have not heard the stories or not aware of the kind of amazing things that have been captured in these plaques. So maybe that's something for.
Well, there's lots to learn going forward. Once again, Orland French and Richard Hughes with a brand new show on your TV. You've seen snippets so far. Perhaps they continue to air 5-minute snippets of their travels, but the full 30-minute program called Road Trips in Hastings County airing on your TV this fall. Gentlemen, thank you so much for joining us. Really appreciate it, and safe travels.
Thank you.
Think road trips.
Yes, safe road trips.
See you on the road.
Yeah.